Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Born Political. Another great show. I don't know if you got a chance to see last week. I had Mayor Marian Galbraith. I still call her Madam Mayor because that's what she is to me, and I'm going to call her that forever. She was listed up as a community volunteer. She's much more than that. She's a lot, and she actually got me to go to a meeting this past Monday. I was not blindsided because I always know that whatever she gets involved with, it's good things. And I had heard and known about the project that we're going to talk about tonight. But tonight, we actually brought in somebody that is a construction manager of the project. They're going to be able to give us some details, hopefully maybe give us a little outline of what's about to come. This is somebody that I've known for a long time. I worked on the Groton Schools 2020. Even before that, we did some renovation projects when I was on the council, even back on the RTM. Rick Norris is a humongous part of this town when it comes to any building or if you stepped on it, walked on it, or you were around it in Groton, he probably had something to do with it. Rick, welcome to the show. I'm glad you could be here tonight. How you doing?
Good. I appreciate you asking me to come, Joe. And it's funny the way we run into one another.
Isn't it?
Yeah, we ran into each other at Dairy Queen, and I reminded Joe that, hey, we talked about coming on the show, and it just so happened to work out that we're in a position now to tell folks a little bit more about our Groton Sale project as we go forward,
And we open up the show with everyone knowing I eat Dairy Queen now. But I think everyone knew that already. I don't think you let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, okay.
Rick. So Born Political was a show that I created mostly so folks in town could get to know the folks that are in town that are movers and shakers and doing things. And just to me, it's a lot of political is finding out who the person is. And and then you get an idea of I understand why they do this because I understand where they came from. So it's not a political show. It's a lot more about who you are. And it morphed because we had to, because there's a lot of cool things that all these guests were talking about. And this project that we're going to get to, we'll talk about it. It's in the background there if you're trying to see it. We will get to it. But where you from, Rick? Just starting off.
Well, I grew up in Southern California.
Oh, you're a Southern California guy.
Yeah, so I came here in 1970. I graduated from the University of Southern California, ROTC, and then I came here to submarine school. Spent my first 5 years here on diesel submarines, went back to San Diego, did some deep submergence stuff, actually took one of the vehicles to 10,000 feet in the ocean. Went to a nuclear submarine as a navigator, then became the captain of a submarine rescue ship.
Wow.
And went to submarine squadron over in Holyloch, Scotland, where I was the chief staff officer. And I ended up here as executive officer of submarine base. So I ended up where I started, which was really pretty cool.
So your path is similar to 90% of residents in Groton, and somehow I'm not. You're the one who physically got here from another place. My grandfather was the one who was responsible for bringing my family here, and that was through the Navy.
Right.
Obviously the Philippines was under attack, and when we talk about different cultures and what they think about America, I think the Filipino culture is just completely, and still does, feel indebted to the United States because of what they were able to do.
Right.
But in any case, in the 40s, I was brought here long time ago because my grandfather, was able to join the Navy.
Right.
You did it, right out of high school, or were you?
Yeah, after I went to college.
Out of college?
Yeah, I went to ROTC at college, and then I came here to submarine school. So
So in Southern California, you talking San Diego or?
No, Redondo Beach. It's a town about the size, maybe a little bit bigger, of Groton. It's southwest of Los Angeles on the coast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you have brothers and sisters? What's your family?
Well, I have 5 sisters.
5 sisters?
Yeah.
See all the things you learn about these folks. Now I know why you're a patient man.
And way back when, my mother and father actually met in the Navy and were married in Pensacola, Florida. They worked. My dad was a aircraft electrician, and my mom worked on the flight line, eventually moved up to the tower.
Okay.
And one was from Ohio and one was from New York, and they met there and married on New Year's Eve. And I think it was like 3 years later I came along, So
wow.
So we do have a history of service.
So you crossed the country, and your parents, are they still in Southern California?
No,
or did they stay?
No, they've passed away. My dad was just like 77. My mom just recently, last year, she was 94.
Wow.
So she had a full good life.
And was she in California still?
No, she moved to Oregon because my youngest sister, who was also in the Navy at one time, and her husband was,
wow.
They took her in and she stayed with them for a while. And then one of my other sisters, her husband was in the Navy, and one of my other sisters actually worked in Guam in the Navy as an air traffic controller. So we're pretty well welded to the naval establishment, if
Yeah,
you will,
I would say so.
and the support,
Yeah, so your family basically, and the same thing with Marion. You're a reflection of what your parents did and what you
Right,
learned.
right.
And it makes a lot of sense to me now, knowing that, like, again, every project that I can think of that's in town, even the projects you may never see. We were talking off air just a little earlier, and you had mentioned the footbridge that's going to
Yeah.
allow some kids to cut through a path to a neighborhood that gets them over a little creek. And I don't think most people will ever see it.
Right.
But you know where it is.
Yeah. Well, and fortunately, the people of Gosa and all that know where it is, and they were very happy that was put in, and we were able to do that.
Yeah.
It replaced the little Boy Scout bridge that was really just a couple of stringers and some logs attached to it.
Yeah.
So this is a more substantial, and hopefully it gets the use it deserves.
Yeah, and it probably you know as well as I do, if it doesn't matter if it's safe or not, the kids are going to use it anyway.
Right.
So you might as well do something and that's going to be substantial and safe,
right.
and make it fun for them. So I get a kick out of it. I went to New London School, and we somehow called the ye old mill. We'd cut
Right.
under the fence.
Oh, right.
And we'd act like we were safariing, and then there was a big hole on the other side. There weren't a lot of woods in New London, but kids in their imaginations need places like that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that the project we're going to talk about is another part of it. And I know why you're involved now. Your deep connection to the Navy, and at that table, it was so nice because now that I am part of the committee now.
Yep.
I'm community outreach. So if you're part of the community, you're going to be hearing from me because it's a project that you have war memorials, and there's memorials for folks that work in certain fire departments, and you see people get honored in different ways.
Right.
I think this memorial is going to be very, very different because it's memorializing everyone that had a hand on it, and you can't find someone in Groton who the submarines haven't affected.
Right, and this is a little different, and it's not your typical memorial like we have the Flasher Memorial that honors those particular folks that were on the Flasher. This, we tried to call it a monument, so it reflects the greater community. Not only the people that built, designed, operate, maintain, but also the families and the communities that support those. So you can see that on our board. That's our brief mission statement. But we looked at it as a way to honor all those people, because we know the submarine mission is not over with that submarine. The mission is going to be long-term and ongoing. And so the monument wants to reflect that, and not only honor those folks that are doing the work today, but also in the future.
And I was excited that it was going to be the USS Groton.
Right.
And this is before I actually went to the first meeting. And I'm overwhelmed thinking, here's this sub that was named after our town, rightfully so.
Right.
But it's going to retire here in our town. And I started thinking, well, we should get Groton hats and USS Groton. And really, speaking of another board member spoke up and said, remember, this is a monument about all the work we've done collectively. Right. And I think we're lucky that it's the Groton. I'm very happy that it is. But it's just a small sample of what's been done here, because that's just one class of ship.
Right.
There's many different classes of ships. The Ohio will be retired soon, and nobody will further build them.
That's right.
So there's folks that are working on them today. You could be a 18-year-old kid today, and you may do some maintenance on them, but you're not going to be building a new Ohio.
That's right.
And you could say, hey, you know what? It was just a few years ago. I was a part of that project, and that's a lot of pride that goes along with that.
Well, and as you're saying, Joe, the submarine base has been here 100 years.
Yeah.
So it started way back when. My first two submarines were diesel submarines in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And I was about in the transition where they were transitioning from diesel electric to nuclear kind of things. And,
so you were before the Nautilus.
Well, no, the Nautilus was actually before me. But
but
the
60s,
changeover of the base was really when I went to San Diego for 6 years on the deep submergence program, came back. Of course, all the diesel submarines were gone because I put one of the last ones out of commission at the sub base, and it was all nuclear submarines along the waterfront.
Yeah.
So there was really that 4 or 5 year period where there was a huge transition, and the older ones went away, and the new ones came in, which are far more capable, of course.
Yep. And back to the memorial, in my mind, I keep thinking of the because we're thinking of the people that we want to reach out to. I think
Right.
As a community outreach, part of it, and you being in the construction, and part of the outreach is grabbing families like yours that have been affected or know what it means to be
Right.
a sailor, to know what it means to come into a community. I mean, you came from Southern California. It's as far as a jump as you can make in this country.
Right.
So when you came and settled down, did you come here, and from the outside looking in, because I haven't had to do that. My whole family was here and established. The community's set up to be integrating with folks that
Right.
came from everywhere. And did you find that simple, like the transition, or?
Yeah, it was relatively easy because, like, the first summer, I think I met my wife. Not long after we got married, and my first 5 years was spent here on the submarine base.
Is she a local, your wife?
She was from Norris.
Norristown.
Yeah.
So that's not far at all.
No, and both my kids were born here. So one
Yeah.
was at the Bacchus Hospital, the other at the submarine base hospital when it had just opened.
Yeah.
Which was a beautiful place way back when, because she was like on the 4th floor and you could see the whole river and all of the
from
bridge.
Bacchus you could see the river?
No, from the submarine base hospital.
All the submarine base.
And
They
it's-
don't, no more delivering babies on the
No,
submarine
it's been downgraded to a clinic or what have you.
Yeah,
But in its heyday, it was really a busy place.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think most people understand, from my point of view, for someone that worked in labor my whole life.
Right.
I was never a member of the service.
Right.
But actually talking about this memorial and being a member and having Marion, she brought up a few points about how important it was for people that work on them to understand their part in it. And I've got to see that too, because going to some of the commissionings, they bring that up a lot. I think, and if you talk to a sailor that's getting ready to leave his family for 6 months,
Right.
he is very comfortable knowing that the people that built it
Right.
are professionals. Respect that if it's not done correctly, that they're the one that's responsible to tell someone it's not done correctly. All in the name of safety,
Right.
making sure that our sailors have the best ships that they can have. And
Yeah, and submarines may be a little bit different than other ships, because any point in time, everybody's relying on one person. So you all rely 100% on everybody else on the crew.
Yeah.
Which I find different than surface ships, if you will, because Kittiwake was a submarine rescue ship. Surface ship, the sailors were very professional.
Yeah.
And did a very good job. But it's a little bit different when you're underwater and you have to rely on people to turn the right valve at the right time.
Yeah.
And remember to shut it when they need to shut it. So it is a little
I've
bit
been
different.
in the Navy school. I mean, I am integrated with the Navy in ways. We make trainers. So, a lot of the young sailors, they come in, they're 18. I think they're shocked when they go to
Right.
the damage control trainer.
Oh, yeah.
And they're told that here's this wooden peg. If there's water shooting out, jam it in there and do leather.
Yeah.
And I think it's something the regular public would never see this.
Right.
But I think if you join the Navy and you're thinking wooden peg, like there must be some kind of mechanical clamp I can put on this, right?
yeah.
That's more advanced, and there's not. I mean, it's still the best way to do it.
Right.
But these kids come in and they're jumping from what used to be the most important thing was maybe their basketball game that night on Friday night, to all of a sudden having a chief that's teaching them in school that doesn't understand why you're late.
Right.
Doesn't understand why, because you came late and you put 150 other people's lives at stake.
Right, right.
And that's how serious it is.
Right.
And you can see it in the teachings. And I've heard the yelling. They're not too happy when a student shows up late.
Well, and going back to one of the other comments you made, Joe, it was interesting to find out that your company works on trainers and stuff like that. But that shows you the interface of all the local companies that support either the base, the submarine force, the families, that sort of thing. So that's huge, and we all appreciate that.
Well, we go out to lunch and we realize that most folks don't know, because there's a lot of little companies that we interact with
Right.
that most people would never know. I mean, you have Thayer Mahan,
Right.
and these guys go to lunch and they're part of, if you go to Sneakers or you go to the Spot or any of these Christophers and you're
Right.
eating lunch, that's part of the fabric that's
Right.
connected to the submarines. And that's what I mean. It goes so deep that you don't even realize that.
Right.
If you're bartending and serving someone lunch, but you're part of this. And that's how deep I think, as community outreach,
Right.
my mind's been turning about who I'm going to ask to help. And believe me, if you're breathing,
Yeah.
you're probably going to be on my list to call, because
yeah.
I think we do need the help. You know,
Right.
we'll start talking about the project too.
Right.
It's a monumental task. It's big. It's worth it. We have like I said, it's here in the background first and foremost. And where's it going to go?
Right. Well, if you can see on the site, it's really, if you're familiar with 117, a Newtown Road, some people still call it Newtown, some call it 117. I think that's where everybody is. But up in the upper left-hand corner will be the Groton Public Library and the Senior Center, which is Thrive 55 plus Active Living Center. And it's going to be right along the road there. Yeah, so it's going to run north and south. So the sale itself will be facing north, if you will. So when folks come off the highway and come down 117 toward Route 1, they'll be passing by it every time they come off the road there. We chose that location. We've been through some fits and starts on what the location was going to be. It turned out that ultimately became the best location. And actually, it was a state right-of-way, and the organization, the foundation, was able to raise the money to purchase that from the state and turned it over to the town, and the town's going to allow us to build on that.
And I think most people don't understand what it takes. We drive by memorials every day all over town and have no idea what it took to put that, down on Thames Street.
Right.
But it was a group of people that got together and did it. Here, I do want to point out 117 Newtown Road also officially became the Jojo
Right,
Gingerella
right, that's right.
Memorial Highway. That's named after my son. So this takes on so many different meanings for me. So you drive past it, or you pull into the library, and you're going to pull into the parking lot, and basically the green part is going to be raised, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a raised berm. It will have the plaza that you see around the submarine sail here. I can point to it a little bit. Whoops, I don't want to get tangled and lose my wire. But around here where this plaza is going to be about 50 feet across. So we're going to have this plaza here. The sail itself with the sailplanes is about 35 feet. So the sail will go there. The rudder will go in the back here. This rudder is going to be about 14 feet high, and the sail itself is going to be about 20 feet high.
And that's going to be in relation the exact same size.
Yes. So this berm that Joe mentioned is going to be the exact length of the submarine. And then we'll have a walkway going from the main area down. We're talking about this being the family area. Here, this is an artist rendition. The plan's not fully developed yet. So this is the conceptual plan. So things may change a little bit on that as they get into the more detailed design.
Yeah, because again, someone sketched it, and me, it's brilliant. I mean, when I in my mind, what I'm envisioning is the lights go down, and this thing is going to look like a submarine is floating, docked to the sidewalk on 117. It just, and I think it's going to allow people to walk the full length of a submarine. That doesn't really happen. Even if you're at the pier, you can walk the length of a submarine, but to be standing and looking at it, looking up at it, it's almost like you're going to be walking on the water.
Right. So we expect it to be very nice. And the location was chosen, I think, primarily because there is parking available. There's restrooms available. Both the senior center, I'll continue to call it the senior center because that's more familiar, and the library, and parking available. And there's also the Vietnam Memorial. If you follow that sidewalk that goes to the top of the drawing, it's going to be connected across there. So it looks like a very good location for this. We, of course, have to comply with all the town's regulations and plans and stuff like that. So that's another not really issue, but something that we have to go through to get all the regulatory approvals. As far as town organizations or departments supporting it, we think we've got great support for that. Yep. It's just a matter of getting through the paperwork sometimes.
And you're going to hear a lot from me about fundraising and community outreach. You're going to, because without money, none of this happens. But there's a lot of opportunities that are going to come up, and part of the design and construction is something that you're working on. Is the opportunities are right in front of us right now, right?
Right.
You want to talk about that a little? Where could you become part of this?
Well, we have three divisions actually. We have the one Joe's been talking about was communications and PR. We have construction, and we have fundraising. So we're still looking for volunteers. We have a 4-member executive committee who are the officers of the board of directors. There's probably 10, 12 folks on the board of directors. And some people are reluctant to be on the board of directors, but they're willing to volunteer for some function.
Yes.
So that's what we're really looking for, is to get those volunteers, those extra hands to help us. I don't know if you can see the bottom line. It was always one submarine, many hands, lasting impact.
Yep.
So this is similar. This is one submarine or one monument, and it takes many hands to put it together.
And now, if you're looking at the brick walkway too, I think there's going to be opportunity to buy bricks with your
potentially
loved one's name.
Yeah.
Those things are all up in the air and undecided exactly right now, but it's something that I mentioned because it was being talked about. And I'm hoping if you listen to this show or you hear this podcast later on, and you want to be part of it, that you do reach out. I mean, you go to the www.grottonsale.com. It shows you how to get involved, who you could call if you wanted to. If you're really good at, who knows, if fundraising or whatever your skill is, or you just want to be involved, follow us. Like it, follow the page, because there's a lot that's about to happen. I mean, this is a monumental project, and you guys have currently, you raised $195,000, but you had to buy some land. And we don't know what the project's going to cost, but it's something that we know that we're working towards, and it's going to take some help.
So I can give folks a little kind of insight into the schedule. We're really going to kick off the master part of the fundraising campaign here the 1st of October, where the sale is on this drawing. We'll probably be putting a sign up with drawings similar to this, maybe some additional pictures to show what's going on. So that'll be the 1st of October this year. The sale itself, such as it is, needs to be refurbished. So it's really in pieces. And
I've seen it.
Yeah, Joe's seen it. It's a mess.
Yeah.
But the Groton was actually decommissioned on November 7th, 1997. And we're attempting to get the sale delivered to the site where it will be refurbished by that date. So it'll be like a rebirth of the Groton, even though it's for a different purpose. But it'll be a rebirth and an honorarium for the community.
What's the goal, the end goal, when you think?
We're thinking potentially we would start site work. You can see all the site work that's required probably in the spring of 2023 next year. And the intent is to get the thing done by Veterans Day of 2023. There's a lot of things that have to be done to get from here to there. So we can't promise that date at this point, but it's certainly one of the goals we have out there.
But you are Mr. Timeline.
Yes, I
am. If anybody knows Rick Norris, and you've been in the meetings that I have been over school construction, and you hammer on timeline, and it's in a project like this, it has to be said. You don't always meet the goals. Sometimes you actually beat them. Oftentimes you don't make them. But to have a frame of reference to know where you are and what you're doing, I'm so excited about being even part of this. And I know you are too. I mean,
and we're excited to have you, Joe. I mean, geez, man.
Well, I'm just to me, I think if we can get other people involved, I talked to some guys from Electric Boat already, and they sounded like it's something that they want to be involved in, because once I told them what the goal of the monument was, you could bring as an Electric Boat worker to walk up and know that this memorial is about you. And a lot of times, especially in our area, you talk about your service and your connection to the Navy. But I was just at the Grosso Tech graduation, the pipeline graduation. There's a young woman that was the 4th generation shipbuilder, and she was going as a shipbuilder. So someone like that's going to be able to go to a memorial and think about a great-grandfather that was building submarines before her. I think it's going to be impactful.
Well, and actually some of the thought originally and continuing is that, maybe in the plaza events could be held. People can actually walk from the plaza to the back to the where it's going to be more family oriented in the back, so they get a feeling. Right now, they show trees. The trees were kind of put into place to grow and kind of make it feel like you're inside something as you're walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, this is all conceptual right now, and we have a design committee that's going to be working on it and working with our architect, who I'll be
So there's a lot of
working
thought
with.
that goes into
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
I think,
quite a lot.
And that's why I think people should get involved early, because there's a lot of folks in town, and I know, I'm state rep for 6 years, and if I knocked on your door right now, many of you would not know who I was. You just wouldn't, no clue, and I get it. We're all very, very busy. But when a project like this comes along, it doesn't come along very often. This is something that's going to be lasting and be here for forever.
Right.
Because you're never going to be able to move the sail anyway.
Right. Oh, yeah.
The weight of the thing. We have a couple hatches at our job right now.
Yeah.
And there was 16,000 pounds for a hatch in a little part of the tube. So I'm imagining
It's something like 20 tons or above. And Joe and I talked a little bit about the beginning. I was on the town council when we first looked at that, when the submarine, we found out it was going to be decommissioned and try and bring the sail here. The council didn't want to take action at that particular point.
Yep.
About 6 years ago, I think, it could be longer now because time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
That we formed a committee. We were looking at all kinds of various sites to put this thing. It kind of got taken out of the town's hands because they weren't moving forward with it, and the foundation was formed, and they've been taking action and looking at these things. I was not really involved in that particular time, but then I was asked to come back on and help with the construction. I'm really happy to be here. You know?
And I was on the council from 14 to 17, and I'm fairly sure that we voted to accept that it would come back.
Yeah.
I got to look back because everything overlaps. I could have been an RTM for all I know. But I want to say that was something that came up, and it was something our council had voted on, saying, yes, we do want it. Which is, there's always a first step.
Yep.
But, I work on the sub base, so I've got to see the sail a few times. And she's not in her best shape. She's been out of the water since 1997, like you said.
Yeah.
But knowing where she's going to go and knowing what it's going to be, I think we should all be excited about it.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's not what. We know what. But now we're to the point how, so.
It's always the how.
How do we do it? And that's usually the most difficult part when you get into a project like that.
Well, everybody knows what we want.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
I mean, like we said, there was, I think when we talking about, there was the fight about where is it going to end up. I look at a site like this, I don't think it's going to end up in a better spot. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere watching that saying, it should be here or there. We are beyond and past all that.
Right.
And now to be able to even see and know that this is potentially in the center of our town center.
Right.
Because now that Claude Chester, because when we were talking about the spot originally, I don't think we realized Claude Chester would be going away.
Right.
And that's something that's going to happen.
Well, and it really, like you say, at town center, we looked at schools when we were building the school projects. That's really the geometric center of town.
It is.
Right, that spot.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier too that the Pequannock Bridge, it's close to that neighborhood. That neighborhood was actually built during World War II for the submarine construction folks that worked at EB. So there's a connection there.
Yep.
We also viewed this site as another key entryway into town.
And that's it. We could talk forever. I'm sorry, I'm better at time than that normally.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rick. We'll have you on again.
That's
Half
okay.
hour is gone. Thank you for watching Born Political. We'll see you guys next week. You'll be hearing from me. We're going to ask you to help out. And us.
That's right.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you,
That
Joe.
was great.